And give me the
Yeah.
link. Give me the link. Give me the link. Just put it in the comment. Give me the link. There we go. And we just let people know we're coming in late.
Actually, we can edit.
Okay.
Yeah.
New one. No? That's the new. That's the new one.
There we go. All right, we're getting this. So
We got it. It's only our 20,000th live stream.
it's okay. Is it better? All right, that's good.
All right. All right. So back to our discussion here about Wall Street Journal.
Well, let's wait till everyone gets back in because
Okay.
we were at 9. We're gonna wait till we get back to 9. Okay, yeah, it's so much better.
Yes.
Glad.
We need a little
pointed that
checklist.
out.
Next, every time we do this, we
Right.
need. It's every month, and by 1 month, I've forgotten
Right.
everything. So, but hey, do you guys notice that we've got a new webcam? It's auto focusing, so like if I move closer and back, it stays focused on me. That's pretty cool.
Pretty good.
Also, you can see my sunburn from yesterday.
Yeah.
We were at an EV event.
Quite a sunburn. I was giving test rides.
Yeah, you're in the UV protected car. Even though there's a sunroof, it's a sunglass. It's
right.
Is it a sunroof? Sunglass? Sun.
It's not a sunroof because
the glass roof
opens. Yeah. Right. Technically.
What's the difference between a moonroof and a sunroof?
A moonroof can only like open a little bit. Like I had a moonroof on my Xterra.
And it opens like this a little bit, or opens like that a little bit?
It opens like this.
So that you could peer out and see the moon?
No.
Who comes up with this stuff?
It's funny. All right.
Oh, there we see.
There we go.
We get the answers. Moonroof has a screen to cover the sunroof.
Oh.
See?
Maybe I didn't have a moonroof.
I don't think you did.
I don't know what I had.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Could we talk more about long time power storage? Are we talking about power walls here? Are we talking about how the world is going to be changing? Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
When analysts talk about Tesla, they oftentimes talk about the fact that it's a car company, and they forget about the fact that it's way more than a car company.
Right.
One of those being solar. And then they kind of diss solar because Tesla has moved down from the number 1 spot to like the number 3 spot. And they're like, oh, they're losing ground, blah, blah. They forget about the solar roof coming out.
Right.
But let's just skip ahead to solar energy, to battery storage energy.
Yeah.
One big reason I think why American analysts don't think about Tesla as a battery storage company is because there's so little presence in America right now in the United States with their Powerwall. And their power packs. They're sending them all to places that really need them. So let's think about why that is. Australia has expensive electricity. So if you're going to make battery storage, that's the best places to make your money. Right. So all these analysts who are like, why aren't you making more money?
Yeah.
They're being really smart. They're going to Australia where it's 45 cents a kilowatt hour. Whereas the United States average price is what, 13 cents a kilowatt hour?
Right.
So battery storage is being built out, power walls, power packs in Australia.
Now, okay, but this is not what Marcel is talking about.
What is he talking about?
So Marcel says the Powerwall is for days. What's possible for months? So okay, so
so you're worried that like the sun doesn't come out for a month, and how are you going to power the grid?
Right.
Is that what he's worried about?
I guess so. Yeah. So I mean, there are some solutions. One of them, probably the cheapest for like just a ton of storage that you are going to need for a long period of time, would be pumped hydro.
Can I just go back 1 second?
Right.
So let's say you have power walls at your house, and you have solar on your roof.
Right.
Sun doesn't shine for a month, let's just say. Right? Maybe you live in the North Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
You're still getting fed power from the grid. You're probably on some kind of grid, either a microgrid or whatever. And there can be wind, geothermal, other sources of power that feed your power wall during that time. And you can charge up your power wall on off-peak times. So if you have a grid that charges you, let's say, 22 cents at peak and 8 cents off peak, you could be filling your Powerwall off peak.
Okay. But I mean, like, I think what he's saying is what happens grid wise when we're fully renewable and it's cloudy all the time.
Right, but we're not solar. We're not going to have 100% solar grid.
True.
We're going to have wind. We're going to have geothermal. We're going to have pumped hydro. We're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of other things. So you're never going to have a time when you don't have one of those powering your grid. I mean, are you worried that we're going to need like 6 months of storage for the entire grid? Because I don't think at the near future you'd be able to do that. No.
Right. Okay. So your long-time target is to get independent from the grid. That's a good
Right.
That's a good idea.
Or, I mean, and I'm not saying that there are always going to be grids of some kind. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that we should just be isolated little islands, like I should have my own power and not be connected to anyone. I think a microgrid, and by micro, I mean probably town size,
Mhm.
is a good thing, because that means that if my town has a problem with its grid, yes, we'll lose power for a while, but it won't take out the entire state or the entire country.
Right.
I mean, so a microgrid is a smaller grid, that's all. And you can interconnect microgrids if you'd like to.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's a new way of thinking, right? Because now we just have these ginormous grids,
Right.
and we have no control over our own destiny.
Right. And I mean, even with solar, even when it's cloudy outside, you're still getting some power. It's not
Right.
It's not all gone. So it's not like you're like if the cloud goes in front of the solar
Well,
panels.
and here's another thing I'd like to point out.
Yeah.
I'm limited by National Grid to how big my solar panels can be. So I've got 9 kilowatts of panels on the roof. I wanted to get 15, and the power company said, National Grid said, no, can't do that. I've got room for it.
Mhm.
I can afford it. They said no. Why did they say no? Because I'm competing with them. They want to sell me power. So if I was able to actually put what I wanted on my roof, I could probably fit about 20 kilowatts on my roof,
Wow.
which would, now I run a lot of things. We have a music studio here and other things. So it probably wouldn't power all of me because I have businesses here. But if I was just a regular residential house, it would probably take care of me during most months.
Mhm.
And that's kind of my point, is you're being undersold. Most people are being sold these dinky little, 4 kilowatt, 7 kilowatt systems when you could fit a lot more than that. When the power roof comes out, one reason why people cut down on their systems, let's think about roofs in America. They're like this. Half of it shows towards the road. And most people are like, I don't want to see panels on my roof. So you're now only stuck with this side. And if this side is not south facing or west south facing, then you can't put panels there, or they're not that efficient. When you have a power roof that's completely covered with maximized area of solar
It's a
panels,
solar roof. Yeah.
you're going to get way more coverage.
Mhm.
I think this is what Elon's thinking about.
Right. All right, let's look at some of these here.
Oh, let's talk about this one. If you guys are willing, how are you guys planning to pay for the Semi and Roadster? So the Roadster, we're at 140% as of today.
Yep.
And if you know your math, 140% is greater than 100%.
Right.
So one Roadster is paid for. That's awesome. And that's thanks to all of our referees.
Mhm.
40% is going towards the next Roadster. So at the moment, if it stopped today, we would be able to get 40% off another Roadster. I am hoping that through my personal charisma and convincing skills that
Yeah.
I'll be able to convince Elon to apply that 40% towards the semi truck.
Right.
Because we've already got a deposit down on the semi truck.
Mhm.
We're number 65 on the list. And if 40% of $250,000 is
Whatever.
it's
Some
$100,000.
Uh-huh.
If I could get that 100,000 applied to the semi, I'd almost be there.
It's true.
So my hope is that that would be one thing we could do. The second thing is, I think we're probably going to get the second Roadster for free anyway. At the rate we're going,
Mhm.
it looks like it might happen. So we might get a second Roadster, and I don't know, sell it.
Right.
That would pay for it, the truck.
The truck.
So-
and some
And
cab.
some, yeah, because we're going to need more than just the truck.
Right. We need lots of different
Attachments and trailers,
Right.
right.
Because I mean, we can have one that's just for cars. We could, I want to make one that's a whole off the grid house,
off the grid
know,
house.
all sorts of fun stuff that we can really accomplish that you
I-
just
I-
can't accomplish anymore.
I would love a broadcasting studio, and we could be this is illegal. You can't in the United States have people in the back of the truck while you're driving it.
Oh.
But I was thinking maybe we could get a permit or something. Like, I don't know.
What you'd want to be driving around?
Could
you know
we-
what that would do to the audio?
No, we'd have it soundproofed. It'd be a studio with a glass wall.
If we were up on a mountain,
Yeah.
that I would love that. You just drop us
Great.
off somewhere, and then every week when we do Test the Time news, we're just in a different location.
Wouldn't that be
It'd be
awesome?
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do all sorts of fun stuff like
Right.
that. But he's worried about how we're going to pay for it. So going back to that for a second, definitely, I think some paying off of one Roadster and selling one Roadster. I mean, because don't forget, a Founder Series Roadster is valued at $250,000. We don't know about the option packages yet. We don't know like if the SpaceX option package is going to cost a lot more, if it's going to be included.
Right.
Do you think it's going to be included?
Part of me hopes so, but another part of me is feeling like this the SpaceX option package is going to be illegal.
Street illegal?
Yeah, I think that there's a good possibility there that
But I don't think that necessarily means that you can't drive the car itself.
right. I just think you can't activate the system, but that's going to make me feel like they're going to not give it to you for free but yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We just don't know. We just do not know.
We do not know.
So,
But yeah, anyway, to answer your question, one Roadster we're getting definitely for free. That one will be driven around the United States and Canada. We have connections for one in Europe, so
Right.
we'll be driving.
now, for free, we still might have to pay taxes.
Oh, we're almost definitely. There's a lot of talk. Like if you go to Ben Sullivan's channel, he's talked about the fact that maybe there's some way, because it's not available to the general public, that this isn't considered a normal prize gift. I think there's no way around that. So I'm having to save up money for taxes. And taxes, we're talking probably 28% of $250,000.
Wow.
So there's going to be a lot of taxes on this, I'm guessing. So yeah, there's a lot of contingencies we have to plan for here, which is why so many people are not probably going to actually take delivery of their cars. They're probably going to just turn around and sell them.
Right.
We are going to drive ours around for you guys to check out, because
Right.
what's the whole point? We don't want to put this thing in a little museum
Right.
and
No.
pay, oh, you can look at it from afar. We want you guys to check it out, sit in it, drive around,
Right.
see what it does,
We wanna
because
use
this is going to change people's minds.
It is. And I mean, yeah, we're going to get the semi. And I mean, part of that is like, I want to go to different places. Like, I want, places where we have fans, maybe it's just one fan in a little small town. And they, we work together with them and they put together like a little event, right? Where they
Just for him.
no, for a whole town,
Gotcha.
right?
It's called the Make Everyone Else Jealous event.
No, it's the like we show up in the Tesla Semi, we pull off the Roadster off the back, we also pull off the Model 3,
The Unity.
Arcimoto,
Mhm.
All of these other EVs, because let's face it, Roadster probably isn't practical for everybody.
Right.
But we'll have the Roadster there, and then we'll be giving test rides and everything.
Yes. Because there's so many great EV solutions. That you just mentioned the Arcimoto.
Mhm.
We talked to the CEO of Arcimoto, and you can see our
Mhm.
I can't point to a link because we can't do
We
that.
can't
But
do it.
but if you hunt our channel, you'll find an
Right.
interview with them. And the Arcimoto is a cool EV, a
Right.
three-wheeler
Mhm.
that a lot of people are excited about.
Right, and I mean, we'll get a big GoSun grill. We'll be making stuff. It'll be we'll
Solar
have a
power.
fun time.
I love the interview with Go Solar. This is from We Get It Easy. And I'd like to buy one, but I'd like to see an episode of Cooking with Brent and Bobby first. I agree. Yes, we are going to have Brent and Bobby cook some stuff. We have a little GoSun.
We have a GoSun Go, which is great for hiking.
Yep.
Jesse's
been using it.
I've been using it at work. So at work, I go to the store right next to a supermarket. I go buy some vegetables in the morning or the day before, and then in the morning I cut some up and I put them in the GoSun Go. The GoSun Go is really small.
Yes.
It is not like
It's a little tube like that, you would say?
It's like the size of it's like a little bit bigger than a paper towel roll, like
Okay.
the brown roll
Mhm.
in the middle. And so yeah, you can imagine fitting food into that. It's not enough to be like, come on, everybody, eat some food with me. But you know, Ghost on Ghost sells much bigger versions of it.
This is
It's more
their
expensive.
small camping mode
Right.
one.
But yeah, we will definitely need to do.
But how did it turn out? You've kept me on
it's
the edge of my
great.
seat.
It's great. It's like having a little oven outside. It's like having a little tube that's an oven.
But does it have to be hot out?
No, I mean, it's been hot out when I've been doing it, but it'll work at any temperatures because it has a vacuum tube.
That's right. So supposedly it works in the winter. Like
Right.
cold, it can be cold outside as long as it's sunny enough and it keeps the food really hot.
Right. So I just point it roughly at the sun and it just heats it up. And so everything takes about as long as an oven would take. So, you know, I put in like little mini potatoes with some, you know, drizzle some basting oil on there or something like that. And then it takes, you know, 40-ish or so minutes because it's potatoes and you're not microwaving it.
There's a link on the GoSun interview that just came in from the CEO to a new Kickstarter for a new item. I haven't even had a chance to check it out yet. If you go there and check it out, I think it's a pretty cool item. I think this is the one that is a hybrid battery and solar.
Yeah.
The hybrid battery is cool because if it's a little bit cloudy out, the hybrid battery heats up as well. So you can cook even when the things aren't perfect.
No sun, right?
Because that was my only drawback. It's like if I brought this with me as my way to cook and it happened to be a cloudy day, I wouldn't be able to cook with it.
Right.
So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
And just to fill you in on how we're thinking of doing it with Brent and Bobby, I want them to do a couple vegan meals in it just to see how it works and to,
Right.
But I think we should really be thinking about getting the bigger solar stove.
Definitely.
Because there's one where you can fit like half a chicken in there.
Right.
And,
not that we eat chicken.
we don't. All right. So we get some cool questions coming
Right.
in.
Yeah.
Did we see the SpaceX launch last night? I did not see the
I
SpaceX
didn't
launch.
see it, unfortunately.
I love SpaceX launches. I did see the Blue Origin launch this week.
Yeah.
And it was kind of underwhelming to me. I was trying to get excited about it. And
well, if it's not going to orbit, it's not.
where chat just
Oh
disappeared.
no. That's not
You two didn't like us talk. Bezos heard us talking trash about Blue Origin.
He doesn't own this. No, there it is.
I thought he had
That's
a
top chat and live chat.
Interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, we didn't see SpaceX's live stream. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. Yes, Jeffrey says a lot of places it's actually illegal to be completely grid. It's a government conspiracy. No, Massachusetts, same thing.
Right.
Can't be disconnected from the grid. You cannot have a house that's off the grid. Whereas next door neighbor,
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, you can be off the grid.
Live free or die.
That's right.
Right.
And so my oftentimes question to when I'm talking to National Grid is like, well, New Hampshire seems to do just fine.
Right.
They've got big cities and everyone's doing fine off the grid if they want to. How come it can't happen to all the states? It's just a monopoly. But you're right. It's kind of a conspiracy.
Right.
I mean, think about it for a second. We're America. Why shouldn't we be allowed to live however we want?
Right.
If I want to be off the grid, then let me be off the grid.
Right.
You need a lot more Patreons to be able to afford all this. Well, as we just kind of explained, first of all, yes, that would be great.
Right.
We'd love a lot more patrons. We are probably going to be relying on your support to do certain things.
Right.
We're just hopeful that the referral program can help us do most of the truck.
Right. Most of the heavy lifting, because it would be pretty unrealistic to hope to get support that we would need all the thousands and thousands of dollars to get a truck from our patrons when we still have to pay Brent and Bobby and we still have to buy new gear all the time.
And to run a truck, I mean, so we have to take the test, so that we're going to have to take lessons and take the test. That's all fees for that. Then you have to have a trucker's license. You have to have all sorts of transportation licenses as I'm learning about this. So it's tough to be in the trucking industry. There's lots of fees and stuff. And then, as you mentioned, all the trailers we're going to have to get. Plus, we're going to have to get a special lawyer that's going to divorce me when I get it, because I'm going to have to park it somewhere.
Well, that's another thing. We're going to need to put it somewhere.
And hide it under a giant camouflage tarp so that my wife thinks it's just
we
field of daisies.
We need to put it somewhere else,
right?
Not our
One of you must have a big garage. You know what our dream this week is? A abandoned firehouse.
Right.
So if you guys know of an abandoned firehouse or a firehouse for sale,
right?
Because they're perfect. They're big. They can fit a fire truck, so they can fit a truck.
Right.
And then You know where we got this idea? Zoox.
That's true.
Zoox is a new startup company we're going to be covering this week that's been in secrecy mode for the longest time.
Stealth mode,
Right.
yeah.
They're $1 billion startup in San Francisco, and they're making an autonomous EV, and they got their start in an abandoned fire station.
Yes.
So if they can do it,
Mhm.
we can do it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Dirk. Dirk says we're going to get our Patreon support because we're doing a good job. Thank you. That's really nice of you.
Oh, do you remember the name of the company who makes the plastic roads? Yes, that was
I always want to say MacGruber,
right,
but it's not, because that's the SNL skit that makes fun of
about
MacGyver. It's MacRebur.
MacGruber.
MacRebur.
Yeah.
And that's an acronym for McCartney
Mhm.
and his two other friends. I forget what it says. Yeah, MacRebur.
Yep.
That's a cool company. I've even heard of a second company that's doing something similar to that. So yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're talking about? We're talking about plastics, mixing in recycled plastic into asphalt so that you don't have to use petroleum products like bitumen. It replaces that to give a stronger, longer lasting road.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Would you prefer an electric helicopter? This is from Footy Nut Guy.
Over a conventional helicopter, for sure.
Can you restart? You know how? So if your engine goes out on a regular helicopter, you can do that thing. What's it called? Where you
Auto rotation.
Auto rotation.
Yeah.
Would that work in an electric one?
Yeah, and it'd be way less likely for the engine to cut out.
Can you explain auto rotation? Because I'm trying to remember.
So what you do is you're flying in your helicopter, and all of a sudden you lose
like your engine,
and so then you begin falling pretty quickly. And what you have to do is you have to lower the collective. It's either the collective or the cyclic. I think it's the collective. And
if you're falling right now, you may want to look it up. But
you lower the collective, which changes the pitch of the rotors. So basically, you're able to speed up the rotors as you're falling. You try and get
which gives you lift.
Right. You try and get as much forward momentum as you can, because that also gets you transverse lift. Then when you get really close to the ground, you flare the collective, which
you've
allows
studied this.
I've done it. Not in real life, but in
simulators,
very accurate simulators. And then you flare the thing, and basically what that does is it changes all this momentum that you've built up in your blades into
from forward into down.
Lift. So then all of a sudden you go, and then you sort of.
Did you survive in your test?
65% of the time.
Wow. So this would work in electric as well, because basically once you've lost power, it doesn't matter whether you're electric or not.
True. Yeah.
So I would say as long as electrics can do that, I'm fine.
The interesting thing would be you could probably do a different version of it where you, if you're falling from great enough height, let's say you've run out of battery power, you could do regenerative falling.
Oh, and you built up some power for one last second of burst.
Yeah. So you could
think about that.
So that way you could build it up as you're falling, and then you would, switch off regenerative braking, I guess you'd call it, to let the rotors spool up even more.
And it's instant torque too. You don't have to fire up the engines.
Right. So then as soon as you dropped, and as soon as you were about to, you'd flare the thing, and then you'd want to kick in the last little juice of electric motor, and then you'd actually be able to put it down a lot softer.
That's cool.
So that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, so I'm all for it. In fact, we're going to be highlighting a new company this week called, Blackfly is their product. I can't remember. What's the name of the company?
Blackfly?
Blackfly is the product,
thing?
I think.
Oh, I don't know what it's
called. I can't remember. But anyway, you'll see it this week. It's an 8-propeller electric drone that can be flown autonomously.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're getting into the realm of not helicopter anymore, because I feel like in the future, being able to have smaller motors.
It's a huge advantage. Yeah. Because, I mean, the helicopter was just, it was really hard to get a bunch of small motors working
together
and also reliably.
Right.
So you'd have this really big, nice motor, but then you'd have to, there's so much crazy stuff that goes on in a helicopter.
Right. So, I mean, I think we're going to be getting to a realm where helicopters there's no longer one.
Right.
In the past, to make 8 motors, for instance, talk to each other in real time was impossible. You need computers. Now no problem. So, and that's the beauty of this is a lot of these are redundant, so that if a one or two motors goes out, you still can safely land. So that's pretty cool. All right, I think I skipped ahead too far. So let's. What does Riley say up there? As part of a personal project, I'm designing a two-seater electric car seating like a fighter jet. You guys think there might be a market for a high-powered, decent range mini electric car? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
You know why I do?
Yeah.
Because we've seen the Unity One car, which is exactly like that. It's a two-seater with seats in a line.
Yep.
And it's not. I mean, you're talking about high power. I don't think theirs is what I'd consider high power. It's an urban.
It'd be fun. I mean,
yeah.
Especially if. I mean, and the form factor of the Unity One is to be the second car in the family. This one, what you're talking about, sounds like it could be the third car, sort of be the fun car.
Yeah, there's definitely a market for fun cars and for fun things. Think of all the people who go to resorts every year and they've got nothing but time on their hands and they want to check out the island or wherever they are.
Right.
If they had a cool way of driving around, or just, I mean, we're always thinking about like, well, what would the masses buy? But there's 7 billion people on the planet. And as the price of these things drop, imagine how many people are going to want the option to buy many different kinds of, like, look around now, right? Out on the road.
Slingshot, you've got some pretty crazy things.
There's scooters, so yes, there's of course a market for what you're talking about doing. And that's so exciting. I want to know more about what you're working on, a personal project. Like, is this in the garage kind of thing? Or is this like with the college? Like, comment, I want to see more about that.
Right.
Maybe you have a link to your project.
Yeah. All right, so Dirk says, do you have a solar roof? Does it deliver enough energy for your house and your Tesla? How much energy do you buy from local energy companies? So
we have solar panels from Tesla. So not the solar roof yet, because keep in mind the solar roof, and everyone has been talking about this, like, where is it? Well, Elon said that he was going to guarantee it for life. Yeah. Typical Elon, right? And so if you're going to guarantee something for life, you got to test it.
Well, the roof shingle part.
For life. And so it's only been out for about a year, like the actual panels. I've actually touched one. And so they're putting them on houses right now to try and do, what's it called?
Accelerated life
testing. But think about this. Your roof is hit by the sun every day and then probably goes through seasons and snow and rain and sleet and hail. They've got to do that, the equivalent of that. How do you do that on a house?
You
extrapolate?
I think they've done some.
Do they have it up there with a bucket and just like?
Well, no, I think they've done some of their tests already, where you'd put a part of a roof in a chamber and then you just shoot ice at it for a while until it breaks or it doesn't break, which it seems like this is.
But here's the thing: I've seen the actual piece, and there's plastic on the back. Okay, that's how it clips on and stuff. And I think that they are trying to figure out what pieces need to be reinforced more, what need to be replaced with metal, because you have to keep this cheap and you have to keep it light, but it has to hold up to a thaw freeze cycle and a heat cycle. And if those little parts, whatever they're made out of, don't last, even if the roof itself, if the glass part lasts, if it starts falling off your roof, because these are hooked onto rails. So
yeah, I don't know if that was what we saw was a true piece or it was a prototype.
It was what they're hoping to be the roof. I think that they're going to trying to learn during this 6 or 12-month cycle whether they have to beef certain parts up or not. I think that's where we're at right now, is that they've got the technology, they've got the roof. They just need to know what needs to be beefed up, what doesn't.
Right. And they have a lot of experience from the people left from Solar City.
But that's not what he asked. Right. So we have a 9 kilowatt system and we produce about 7 megawatt hours a year. And if you think about Sparky, which is a 90 kilowatt hour car, if I was just powering my car every year, then yes, Sparky would be completely solar powered. But my house, it uses a lot of power because we have businesses and stuff. So I'm not a good test case. But if I was a regular house, then my system probably would handle about 65 to 75% of my power needs. What I have done is I've got a community solar system, which is another additional 45 panels in a different location that I lease, which powers the rest of my house. So I'm pretty much 100% solar. And you can too. If you live in a place where you can't get solar on your roof, there's probably a community solar option if you do a little digging. What does Sean say there? I want a Model 3, but at 60, I'm concerned about the cost of repairs after warranty runs out. I'm 68 to 70 and sure that finances will be then. Don't want a 60,000 car that might be a paperweight in 10 years. That's a good point, Sean. What can go? You've got some just major parts that could go. The battery, the motor. Everything else is, if you're like worried about your brakes and stuff, those are things you can replace and so forth.
Right,
so
the suspension.
Right. So you're basically worried about those two parts. The motors are rated at 1 million miles. So I'm not saying it can't fail before then, but that's what's rated at. And so if it went, let's say in 6 years or 8 years, that would be a major cost to replace. But it's not. I want you to think about this for a second. If something goes out of warranty, we're talking at least 4 years from now.
Yeah.
The price of the things that we're talking about is getting cheaper because we are at we are not at maximum saturation, right? We're not at brain's not spinning fast enough right now, but we're not at a point yet where we've got cheapest batteries. We're not at the point yet where we've got cheapest electric motors. So if your motor went, it's not like changing out in a gas car, like rebuilding an engine. It's just taking out something the size of a watermelon and replacing it.
Right. And I mean, keep in mind that there are going to be lots of smashed Model 3s in the world, and those parts are going to be circulating around. Now, I'm not saying that you should like go buy a wrecked Model 3. Like, we're not saying go be Rich Rebuilds and, try and put your Tesla back together again. But I think that in the future, in 6 years, 6 years is a long time. And I think that if something were to go on your car, first of all, I don't think that it's likely that a motor would go.
No.
There's like 2 moving parts on that.
And
motor.
A lot of things don't touch.
Right. Which is amazing.
Right.
I mean, there's no explosions happening in your car.
Right.
It's great. I think that
I think he's mainly concerned with the battery.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the battery for a second. So the Model 3 battery is even better designed than the other batteries, the Model X and the S. What's the major thing that Tesla has done is they have a battery management system, which means they cool and heat the battery to keep it within range.
Right.
If you treat those cells nicely, they last a long, long time.
Right.
You're thinking about laptops and cell phones, which die prematurely because we charge them up too high, we let them get too hot, we let them go down to zero all the time. If you do that cycle all the time, those batteries hate that, and that's why they die in a couple of years. If you treat them well, which the car does, they last a long, long time. The good news is we have a lot of data. These Tesla Model S's, for instance, have been around now for 6 years plus.
Right.
So we've seen cars that are driving in the Nevada desert every day, and they're getting huge mileages, and they're doing fine.
Right.
So I would say, don't worry about it being a paperweight. The second part is, let's say your battery pack did just die after 6 or 8 years, 10 years.
Right. First of all, it wouldn't die like that.
No.
It would be a
degraded,
slow and steady process. So,
which you would know is happening.
Right. A lot of early Nissan Leaf owners, their packs started to degrade, mostly in hot climates, because the Leaf batteries don't have any cooling system in them. So when they get hot, they just stay hot, and then they're hot, and then they start to degrade.
They don't like hot, right?
And so a lot of people with 2012, 2011 Nissan Leafs just noticed that their range, 100% charge, was 70 miles instead of 80 or 90,
right.
And then that just sort of drops off steadily. The Tesla has not done that. Usually there's about a 4% drop, 4 to 5% drop, and then it just sort of levels out. It's very slow drain.
I want to go back to Sean's question, though, because he's worried about repairs. If you owned an ICE car, let's say you said, forget it, I'm not doing the Model 3, I'm going to get an Audi.
Yeah.
That Audi in 10 years is going to need so much work. You're going to be constantly replacing parts, and they're not going to be cheap. You know why? Because Audi most likely will not be making ICE cars at that point. If they're still even in business, they will be making EVs. So you're going to have to buy, like on eBay, some guy in his garage, some piston thing or some head gasket, because Audi won't be bothering to make them anymore, is my prediction.
In 10 years.
Because 10 years is, we're into full EVs at that point. So you're basically, that's one problem. The second problem here is you're comparing it to an ICE car, which is designed to fail.
That's true.
They could make parts that would last forever. They don't. They make them to the point where they will fail at a certain given time, and then it costs you thousands of dollars. I mean, anyone here on this forum knows this. So if you have an ICE car, that you're pumping in, you get to this point with a car, right? After like 6 or 8 years, and you're like, oh gosh, here come the problems.
Right.
And you're either going to face thousands of dollars worth of repairs every year, or you're going to have to get a new car. Like it's always that problem.
Right.
With EVs, it's not that problem. And finally, Sean, if your battery dies, bolts, take the bolts out and replace the battery pack. And I'm saying in, say, 10 years, that battery pack is probably going to cost a fraction of what it does today. And it's probably...
if it's an S.
If it's an S. But I mean, you can even replace... It's a little more involved, but you can replace the battery pack on a Model 3.
Model 3, it's true.
So...
Right.
And I'm saying there's going to be companies that are going to pop up all over the place to do all sorts of conversions and things like this.
Fun battery things.
Right. We're not picturing that because it doesn't exist as much today. But all these people who love cars and love working on cars are going to have to shift to working on EV cars.
Right. And they're going to have lots of new fun ideas.
Yeah, and lots of aftermarket things. And also, let's just give you a hint of what's coming down the pike. I think capacitors, supercapacitors, are what's coming next in EVs. Supercapacitors allow you to put big charge in and big charge out right away without hurting the pack. And if you were to supplement today's technology battery packs with supercapacitors, you solve two big problems. One is that regenerative braking pumps a lot of power back into a battery, and the battery can't often take a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
The other is acceleration. When you accelerate fast, that pack has to pump out a lot of juice quickly, but for just short bursts. Supercapacitors do that perfectly.
Right.
So I think, just conjecturing here, that Elon's big next move is going to be to add supercapacitors to the pack, because that will add longevity to the pack and add all sorts of cool new features like extra regenerative braking, extra boost of power. Right. All right, what do we got next?
We
might have to go back up a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
We might have to answer faster.
I know.
I think we're down to Marcel. With my solar, 19 kilowatts, I produce about 20 megawatt hours per year. Would love to bring energy to wintertime to power my heat pump, maybe with Redux Flow battery. Oh yeah, so those are the cheaper. You don't need, if you're going to have a battery that's not going to move, it can be a lot cheaper, right?
And because, a lot bigger and a lot more cumbersome.
Yeah, right. And it can use very cheap materials,
right,
like seawater. So
or lead acid.
Right. So that could be a good possible solution. I sent you a video in Messenger to video by James Cook about a rant about how the Nissan Leaf only being able to do one quick charge a day due to lack of active cooling.
Yep. Yeah. This is, so, I mean, we really didn't get in much into, I think it's Charge Gate or Nissan Leaf Gate or whatever. But yeah, basically because Nissan didn't put active cooling in the latest 2018 Leaf, you couldn't charge it more than once at a quick charger.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about. That is so bad.
This shows that they're not committed to the technology.
Right.
It shows that this is still a compliance car for them. And I want to explain the difference. If you're still trying to make your money selling ICE cars, then the EV just becomes a like, put the B team on that and don't worry about it.
Or, you know, the team is fine and they're saying, okay, we're going to need to put a battery management system in this. And they're going, no. That's another $1,000 cost.
Don't fund it.
We can't, you know, we're not even really going to make any money on this car. Right. There's no point really in doing that. And so then what happens is everyone hears about it. And a lot of people, especially who live in the United States, who need to do longer trips than in Europe, because everything is smaller. In Europe, you don't have to drive as far. But
are the people smaller too?
You could argue. Anyway, so because in the United States, you might need to do long distance trips.
And you're right, Americans commute longer.
Right. That means that this is a big issue, and one that we were just at an EV event and everyone was being like, I'm not going to get a Leaf. Like that's not even an option to me because of the charge and the fact that it's not cooled, which means you run into the same problem that these old Leafs have. So yeah.
We Get It Easy. That episode with the plastic road touched my heart. Oh, thank you.
That's nice.
That's really nice. It does work no matter what engine you have. Thank you.
Auto rotation.
That's auto rotation on the helicopter. Thank you. So Jeffrey says that he was thinking about we asked about the battery story. So we asked you guys a while ago, a week ago. There's all this new battery technology that comes out every week, and we don't want to inundate you with weekly stories about pretty much the same thing. And so Jeffrey is saying here that I was thinking just doing one show a month on battery updates. We could do that.
It's possible.
The problem here is that you don't get a lot of information from these companies because it's secret. I mean, they can't give you
that's their whole company is based on their IP.
They're not going to give you like, here's our anode.
Right.
So you're just basically going to be telling you like they're using a lithium anode, and then
or they're using something
right.
else.
And then it will be great in X number of years. I don't it's hard to tell the story is the problem.
Yeah, there's not enough meat to the story. There's not enough substance. A lot of times when we're writing the news, there can be things like they're planning to announce this at the Geneva Auto Show or whatever. And we're always hesitant to be like, do we report on that? Because we're not really reporting on anything.
Right.
We're just saying that something will be done at a certain point. And so if there's not any...
Yeah, can I do a little rant here on press releases? So press releases, if you're a company or whatever, you put out a press release, it's usually a one-page thing that says whatever your news item is. Many press outlets take that press release and create a story right from that. They don't call anybody. They don't check any facts. They just put it out as you said it. And sometimes they'll run with it like, oh, we've got an exclusive, we're the first person to the press with this. It's just what one company said, and they've made the most rosy predictions. You need to ask questions, and the problem is with the press release on new technology, there's no one to answer those questions.
Right.
And you can't ask their competition because they'll just diss it. You can't ask some ICE guy, and you can't ask the company because the company is just going to tell you whatever they said in the press release. Right. So that's where you're stuck. Press releases are good at getting a sense of what's going on,
right? But
you kind of have to wait until the stuff gets tested. And we know what JB said recently about new technologies. The Tesla team is always on the lookout for new battery technologies.
Right. So Riley says that you're thinking of 150 to 200 mile range for front wheel drive. Why did that not sound right in my mouth? Front wheel drive style drivetrain, possibly using refurb Tesla drivetrains. Wow.
Oh wait, so this is Riley who's building the project.
Yeah.
And so you're doing the Rich Rebuilds idea, which is that's a great idea.
Well, no, this is beyond that because he's gonna you're gonna make your own car. That sounds really fun. We definitely want to see that.
I meant that you're taking old beat up Teslas and taking the parts out. So that's I would love to hear more about that, Riley.
You should.
As soon as you got some a prototype going,
send us some video. YouTube channel, because that's YouTube channel gold, as we can see from Rich Rebuilds. We have not been to a rocket launch yet.
We are waiting for our invite to the Falcon Heavy, and I thought for sure it would be in July.
Right.
But we have heard no word of when that's happening. So I'm guessing I'm just going to be for sure that it's going to be August.
Right. It's it'll be down in Florida. And that's where we'll see it.
Yep. So it should be soon.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. We get it easy.
Yeah.
It says our live stream is great. Feels good to support you. Thank you. We love your support. So Marcel drives a Nissan Leaf for 6 years without a battery management system. The battery pack still has 80%. Still can't wait for my Model 3.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. You probably don't live anywhere too hot. That's because I've done a lot of research on YouTube. I think I'm down to 89% on mine. 2013. So it's 5 years. And yeah, it's just the heat. I think every summer it really doesn't like getting so hot, especially the days where it was like 100 degrees. It's no bueno.
So if it's 100 degrees and you're driving it, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
I see. Which sucks because those are the days where you get the best range, the hot days.
Yeah.
Footy Nut Guy says most car companies don't want to go electric and are trying to prevent governments from banning ICE cars. Yes, because most car companies make their money from servicing your car.
Right. And so here's the thing. They can try and play it both ways. Because here's what they have to do. They have to divest all of their assets that are currently in ICE car production.
Right.
And for most car companies, it's going to take about 10 years.
Can you talk about that for a second? Why can't it just be instantaneous?
Well, because every factory that they have that produces engines and all sorts of service departments and stuff all have to be closed, and then you have to open the EV ones, or you have to make some kind of switch. It's very expensive because you have all of this tooling that's many hundreds of millions of dollars in machinery that's just designed to just make engines, and you don't want to divest from that because it's just a moneymaker for you at the
Right.
moment.
I think right now when they do their board meetings, they see a slope that's very shallow. That they're like, we're going to slowly close this factory here or there,
Right. If at
and we're
all.
going to ramp up our EVs.
If that would be the best case
Right.
scenario.
They
on all
think that they
these.
have a long glide path. They think they have like 30 years to do this.
Right.
And they're wrong. They have a glide path that's like, it's going to happen like in 6 years.
Because let me tell you, when people get into the Model 3, or even a Nissan Leaf, they're usually really impressed. I mean, I've had one of my friends, I had him hop in the driver's seat of my Nissan Leaf, and he was immediately like, "Oh, this is awesome."
Right, because the car looks terrible.
Right. And the range is not good enough.
So you immediately are like, well, this car has got to be
It won't
horrible.
work for me. Right. But the driving of it is just so much better. And once you have something with the range, it can be sort of a Bolt. It can be obviously a Model 3. Model 3 is, again, it's just going to
perfect.
change. It's going to revolutionize industry.
Can I just explain something that can't be explained? When we go to car shows and we get people in the car and they do the test ride and we tell them all about what the Model 3, they get a lot of things. You know what they still don't get, Jesse?
What?
They don't get supercharging. You can show them on the screen. You can talk about it. You will not get it until you
supercharge.
What we really got it was when we drove our first few weeks in the Model X.
It's true.
And we were like, let's just go. And then we're like, oh, and that was, I mean, this is only 2.5 years ago, but it was still hard because there weren't that many superchargers.
Right.
So we had to do extra thinking like, oh, if we want to get there, we have to go here first.
Right.
Now there's so many more. There's no real thinking.
Right. And so what we were able to do is just like, oh, we'll just drive places that we've never been before.
Right.
Were roughly close by. You could probably get to with a one refilling stop at a gas station, but like you just never think of doing that.
Well, and so here's what's going on in many people's heads when they get the Model 3. You can see the gears turning. They're like, okay, so if I get a Model 3, how am I going to charge it? How am I going to charge it?
Right.
And
once
you own it and you're like, oh, it's so much easier than I thought.
The wall. Right.
Right. I plug it in the wall, or there's a supercharger that I can charge at, once in a while. Like,
right, or public charging, or
it's so much easier.
Yeah.
But with a Nissan Leaf or a Bolt, it's still pretty difficult. I got to be honest. I love EVs, but it's still pretty tricky because there's fewer options and they take a long time. So even if you find a charger, you're like, oh, I'm stuck here now.
And first of all of the chargers have either 1 or 2 stalls. So if I am sitting there with my Nissan Leaf plugged in, or even worse, someone with a Bolt, not a Bolt, a Prius Prime,
right.
Just plugged in, charging, taking up the parking spot so I can't get to the CHAdeMO or the CCS fast charger. It's just like, come on. Like, really? That kind of thing. You're stuck there until the person comes out of the mall and is like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. You can't, you're just like stuck. You can't go anywhere.
Well, and a lot of like grocery stores will have a charger, which is great. But you're like, you know what? Half an hour of charging isn't okay. So you got 6 miles. Like, that was nice.
Oh, right. But I mean, for the fast charging stations,
yes, fast. But I mean,
also only one stall.
Okay, but most of these cars don't fast charge.
No, of course.
So, and as we just heard with the Leaf, you can't do it more than once.
That's
so,
true.
yeah. And that's why the Model 3 takes care of all this. But it's one of those things where it doesn't even seem. No one gets that point.
Right. All right. What do we? Oh boy.
We're just reading now for a second, trying to find where we were. So Sean says, thank you for speaking to my concerns. New Patreon user with you yesterday. Been watching and loving your videos. Oh, thank you. Thanks for joining us, Sean. So are we now going? So Footy Nut Guy says, are we now going to get a new show called The Battery Show? I hope you don't pinch Jehu Garcia's ideas. Yeah, no, we are not. First of all, we're not like battery gurus here.
Right.
I think Jehu is fantastic. I love him. No, I don't think we're going to, like I just said, I don't think that the once a month show on batteries is the way to go. I think that generally reporting on some new technologies here and there and giving you a sense of what's going on. Let's be honest, unless you're at the high levels of Tesla or, in the high levels of some company, you don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know when the next battery breakthrough is going to happen. Here's what I do kind of know. There is so much money and so many brains being put on this problem right now. You cannot imagine what kind of solutions are going to be coming down the pike. It's just a question of when and when.
It's true.
But it's happening because never before in human history were we focused on this problem.
Right.
Batteries were always this boring, like, I don't care about
It goes in a
batteries.
flashlight. Who
Right.
cares?
All of the battery technology that's taking place in cars right now is what's fueling all this other innovation in other things like robots. You wouldn't see the kind of robots that are coming out of Boston Dynamics if the battery technology wasn't getting this good. You would not see electric airplanes and electric drones taking off like they are
You
taking
wouldn't-
off.
You wouldn't see electric scooters. You wouldn't
No.
see any of these other battery
These are
technologies.
all from the automobile industry.
Right.
So imagine what's coming down the pike as we get batteries that you can't even imagine the energy densities.
Right.
It's going to be cool. Dirk says, we are watching your videos for around 1 year now. The question we all the time have is, are you father and son? We hope it is not a stupid question. You explained it often in older vids. Yes, we are father and son.
Yep.
Guess which is which? Yeah, but we got that question a lot when we first started.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just kind of assume everyone knows now, so we don't really talk about it. But yeah.
That's why we sound the same, at least when I'm not sick. So.
Jeffrey Tripp says, I found out that Bill Nye, the science guy, and his team of Astronomical Conference will have a solar wind ship on the next heavy launch. Yep. It's a secondary cargo. It'll use solar winds to power it. Yep. We've supported that. So yeah, if you know about solar wind, it's pretty exciting technology. It allows spaceships to travel at incredibly fast speeds. And it sounds like it's science fiction, and it kind of is, but it's really cool.
Right.
Footy Nut Guy, from your answer on car companies, it seems they're all adopting the Kodak. Yeah, so let's talk about Kodak. If you're old enough, Kodak was just a brand that everyone knew. It was the film brand. In fact, they invented the digital camera. So we all kind of thought, well, they are transitioning well from film to digital. This just shows you how hard it is to understand technology. They actually understood digital technology, but they didn't understand business and economics. So the digital camera, they didn't full force go behind it, and they die. And this is exactly what you're saying is true with these other car companies. You can understand that EVs are coming, but if you don't get it exactly right, you will die.
Yeah. There's so much complacency there.
Well, and there's so much just not understanding how fast things will move. Once something's been disrupted, once a technology comes along and disrupts another technology, that's the end of the old technology, and it will go. It doesn't matter how many people say, I wouldn't do that. Let's talk about elevators. When elevator technology changed and you didn't need a human to drive the elevator, that was a disruption. And now you said, well, it'll take decades before people get it on an elevator without a person running it. It didn't take decades. It's at that point, it's just it's economics. It's adoption. So think about the fact that you get in an elevator now and you trust that computer. Think of how many people that you talk to say, I would never trust a computer to drive my car. You're trusting a computer to drop you 60 stories in a building.
Well, elevator travel is one of the safest forms of travel.
Yes. And it will
by mile.
And it will be by car as soon as we go to autonomous driving. And that's what I mean. It's people can't seem to equate elevators, for instance, with cars. Or think about how hard it was when horses were gone, and you're like, but a horse would never crash. They were always looking out for my best interests. They were, I can't trust this motor and this car that goes 20 miles an hour.
And that happened in what, 7-8 years?
Happened in about 10 years. Yeah. 11 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's the kicker. And everyone is like, oh, but cars have been around forever. No, they haven't.
No,
They've been around for 100 years.
We had horses for far longer than we had cars. Can you imagine how many people were like, I will never not ride a horse. And then horses like gone.
Yeah. The switch happens.
Yes. Yep. I drove the Tesla Model 3 with you on his trip through Europe. By far the best car he drove in the last 40 years. Yeah. Awesome, Marcel. Yeah. And kudos to Yu for doing that, because he went through 23 countries in Europe and finally got into an accident and had to ship his car back and everything. But he did that all without the support of Tesla.
All that supercharging.
And all just to help people see the car.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. Any thoughts on what the Tesla version 9 software will include? Oh, wouldn't we like to know? I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to set the bar very low here. I think that it's going to have on-ramp, off-ramp, being able to do that. I think that basically he's going to, I think the way that Elon's doing it is he's got far more stuff that the car can do, and
Mm.
he's releasing less of it to the general populace to test those features out. So I think that Autopilot 9 would technically be able to drive autonomously from New York to LA or
Right.
vice versa. But I think that um, we get it easy said, can I ask you something personal? Well, so personal, it is not really. I have a really frustrating family discussion. I mean, in the family, you cannot argue so hard because you do not want to hurt anyone. But what should I do if I realize that you all know it comes from usual media and we all know that what that means, you know that they're wrong. Um,
Tell them that they're wrong,
yeah, you
that they
can't.
lied to. Right. Yep. That the worldview is wrong. Yep. You cannot come to long explanations.
Sometimes it's not possible. There are just too many corners where wrong information has been planted. Can you tell me how to handle it on the one hand in the discussion, and the other hand, if you yeah, I have a similar situation. It's always hard to talk about subjects. We're starting a new series called Cognitive Dissonance. And it's going to be based. Well, it's not called that, but it's about cognitive dissonance. And
Mhm.
cognitive dissonance is when you have two ideas in your head and they can't both be in there at the same time. So your brain has to pick one to dominate. Um, and most of the ones that I would bring up as examples are difficult to talk about. They're usually like religion and politics and things like that. And it's hard to discuss things when they get hard to talk about. So for instance, let's talk about media. If I say to you that what you're seeing on the media, like what you're seeing on your regular TV shows is lying to you,
Right.
then you have to say to yourself, "Oh, you mean so for the past my whole life I've been lied to?
Right.
All the things that I've taught my kids was lies?"
Right.
Then you don't want to face
That's
that.
a really hard thing for a person to accept. So, for instance, it's kind of like if you have a stain on your shirt, or someone else has a stain on their shirt. Part of you doesn't want to tell them that they have a stain on their shirt. You don't
Right.
want to be the person to break the news to them.
Yep.
But then it's sort of like if everyone kind of had a stain on their shirt and everyone just pretended that there wasn't one.
Right.
Not pretended. They really did believe that there is no stain. So basically, you're the one sane person, and you say, "Zach, you have a stain on your shirt," and he says, "No, I don't." And then he goes and he points to someone else, and he's like, "See, I don't have a stain on my shirt because Bob said that I don't have a stain on my shirt, and I turned on the TV, and they said that I don't have a stain on my shirt." You're just not going to believe, the one person who's pointing out something that's true, because it would be embarrassing for you to realize that you'd been walking around all day, or in the case of this thing, your whole life with a stain on your shirt, being wrong.
Right. Let's go to like a food example. I
Right.
mean, my whole life I thought that drinking dairy was good.
Right.
Milk is good for you. Got milk. All these milk. You could drink a glass of milk a
Mhm.
day. And so I raised my kids that way. I raised Jesse, drink your milk. And then one day I finally learned enough information to go, oh, I don't think that was good.
Right.
And the first thing I feel is like, well, that stuff I'm learning about milk being bad, that's got to be wrong because I don't want to face this. I don't want to have to admit that I was wrong.
Right. And that was not the conscious thought that went on in your head.
No, that's just
the subconscious.
it's just
thought.
saying like I don't even want to deal about milk right now. I don't
Right.
want to. Don't talk to me about milk. And that's an interesting point about humans. So what we've learned from many smart people like Gandhi is that we go through a kind of a bunch of stages.
Right.
And one of the first stages is you get laughed at.
Mhm.
Is it ignored first? I think you get ignored
get
first.
ignored, yeah.
You get ignored, laughed at, they fight you, you win. That's kind of how the brain works. The first thing you do is ignore. I don't want to hear anything more about
Right.
milk. Then laugh. Then it's like, well, you've got to be wrong. That can't be right. And then it's like, I'm going to fight you about that.
Yeah,
don't talk to me about milk.
Right.
And then you finally go, oh gosh, you're right. I have to change my diet. I have to tell my kids I was wrong.
Right.
Once you do that on milk, you go, your brain starts to go, you think that was no, but then you go,
oh, was that the only
was that
thing?
the only thing?
It's true.
And that's the hard part is when you begin to go down that road of, wow, I've been told the wrong thing about a lot of things.
Right.
And another example, no one taught you in school about that there was electric cars back in the turn of the century, and that there was steam cars and there was gas cars, and that there were
electric trolleys, and
Right.
that they all disappeared. Like that's just not part of the curriculum.
Right. No.
Right.
Because if we did start to discuss why did they disappear,
Right.
you'd have to face the fact that it wasn't because of the technology was worse. It was because certain people didn't want that technology. So long and short, how do you do that? It's tough. Do you want to not be speaking to your family? Because the first few phases they'll go through is you're going to be the bad messenger.
Right.
You're going to be the messenger bringing them the bad news. And
Right.
we all know how that goes. We shoot the messenger.
Right. Yeah, I would say that it will take time.
It does. Everyone I've talked to, so we go to a lot of car shows. We talk to a lot of people. We talk to a lot of people who like they're trying to get their dad to drive an EV, and it's always a struggle. It's one step forward and one step back.
You need, I think you need to basically affect. You need to have like a kinetic experience. So for the EVs,
Yes.
it's really great.
Yeah.
Because you can get them in practically any
That's
Tesla.
a really good example.
You can floor it, and then they're like, okay, that's a new thing. Like my car can't do that. And that immediately switches something in their brain, and they're going, okay, well, that was different than what I was expecting, because you can't really be expecting that. And then that is a positive little bit of reinforcement for them.
Another thing you can do is think of something that's happened in the last 10 years, maybe with cell phones. Maybe your parents were against cell phones and then maybe now they have one, or maybe they were against email and now they use it.
Right.
Find something that they've adopted that they didn't before.
Yep.
And bring that up as an example. Hey, mom or dad, remember how you hated email?
Yeah.
And now you're using it all the time and it's not so bad?
Yeah.
This is kind of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll give them a sense of like, oh, my kid is making sense.
Right.
That's all I can think of. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Footy Nut Guy, do we still have the Model 3? Yes, it's in the driveway.
Yep.
It's more my mom's car right now.
Jesse's waiting for his
I'm gonna wait for the base model. So I'm fully accepting the fact that I might get half the tax credit, the federal tax credit. I'll still get a $2,500 Massachusetts tax credit, which is thank you, Massachusetts.
And that's not a tax credit in Massachusetts. That's just
a rebate.
cash.
Yeah.
Right.
That's money.
Check in the mail.
So that'll be great. Yeah, just waiting.
Yeah, because
for the
let's
base
face
model.
it. I mean, $35,000 car is expensive.
Right.
That's the average price Americans spend on a car, but that means that half of them spend less than that.
Right.
It's not a cheap car.
Right. So the rebate and the tax incentive is totally going to help. Riley, can't wait to see some sketches.
Oh, you got sketches on your
sketches would be great.
Send them along.
Yeah, we don't need the CAD. We don't need to build it ourselves.
And also think about if you'd like to do a video contributor story, Riley, on your building of the car.
That's
like
true.
if you'd like to share that with people.
Although you should just make your own YouTube channel, because
I know, but he's busy making the
it.
car.
That's
Like you
true.
make it seem easy to do a YouTube channel. We all know how hard that is.
That's
so.
true. That's true.
If you had the opportunity to sit down with Elon and he asked you for advice on how to improve Tesla or what he should do differently, what advice would you give him? Well,
there's not too much that I would say. I know that he's doing a fantastic job. Really smart. A few of the things that he's doing right now is really smart. One is not coming up with the base model. As much as I hate it, I realize that he needs to show profitability in quarter 3 and quarter 4. And by allowing people who haven't signed up on the waiting list to basically jump the line and buy a more expensive car, freaking brilliant. Because there are so many people that I've been talking to who were just so disappointed after they realized that they had completely missed the boat on the Model 3, that were like, oh, well, never mind. They wrote it off in their mind.
Right.
Now that they hear that they could get one in a couple months, if they plunk their money down now, they're like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Can I do this? And I have people at work coming up to me being like, can I do this? Is this possible? You know, and I'm like, okay, tell me, do you have an outlet near where you park? Yes, I do. Oh, perfect. You're all set. Awesome. And then they literally go to their computer, order Model 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen all over the world. Yeah, it is happening. This whole story of like the reservation numbers dropping is bogus.
Yeah.
Let's say, first of all, it's wrong. Let's say it wasn't wrong. It doesn't matter, because as these cars get put out onto the road and people start going for test rides in them and stuff like that, absolutely the cars are going to sell themselves. There's no question, because these cars are getting into the hands of people who ordinarily would not be able to afford a Model S,
right,
or Model X. And that means that you're just getting this huge, completely different audience.
So just to go along this thread, though, that you're talking about, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. I would say,
so Footy Nut Guy said the best advice anyone could give Elon is to learn how to be delicate and employ some PR staff. Yes. I mean, I think that Elon does take his tweets. He gets very personal, but someone else did mention, that yes, the tweeting with the diver didn't help.
No,
Um,
it didn't help. But
didn't help. But you have to understand that he's a human, and unlike other CEOs who would basically hand over their Twitter account to a PR department,
right,
and it would be thought of in a committee, and we'd only tweet out like just plugs for things.
right,
He's a person, and he tweets out his thoughts, and I do appreciate that because we get to see into the mind of him.
right.
He only attacks people when he's been attacked. He
Right.
doesn't. He's not like Trump, who goes after people just who weren't doing anything.
Right.
That diver you're talking about, first of all, he's a cave explorer. He's not a diver, and he was very mean to Elon and said things that like he was trying to pull a publicity stunt. Now, think of this for a second. If you actually tried to save someone's life, and then someone accused you of doing a publicity stunt, you'd be upset about it.
Right.
He was trying to save those kids' lives, and to have a guy who was not correct. I mean, Elon was talking to one of the lead divers, one of the divers who actually swam in and saw the kids. So he had firsthand information from a guy who's like, "Here's what you need to make."
Right.
The other guy, the cave explorer, yes, that guy had walked through that cave,
Right.
had never swam through it.
Right.
So Elon had good information. If that other guy wanted to give Elon some feedback, that's fine. But he just started attacking him.
Right.
So should Elon have called him a pedo? No, definitely not. But was Elon a human being who got upset? Yes, he was
Right.
putting resources into saving those children's lives.
Right.
And I think we forget that. Who else is doing this?
Right. There are plenty of people who have the means, who have the funds to be able to do something like that,
Right.
and they don't do it. So it's like, and even governments, and we talk about the Flint, Michigan, how he's gonna basically, you send him a water test of your water, and he'll come with a water filtration system. Like, that's something the government should be doing.
And here's the thing: I don't think that I could advise Elon. If I ever had the opportunity to help him, I'd rather help him in a chief of staff role where I was, he would tell me what to do, and I'd go try and implement it.
Right.
But to advise him, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm not on that level.
Yeah.
And I don't think a room full of brilliant people are on his level. So, yeah, would it be nice if maybe he focused more on doing things with his companies instead of tweeting? Maybe, but he's an expressive person, and
Right.
he likes to engage with
Mhm.
intelligent people. I think he's kind of in a weird spot. Imagine you're him. You cannot just go out to like a restaurant and talk to people.
Yeah.
The only way he has to talk to intelligent people is through Twitter.
Right.
I know that seems weird, but he can actually learn who the intelligent people are. Have you noticed now he's responding to people like Fred Lambert over at Electric,
Mhm.
who's a smart guy. If Fred tweets him,
He
a lot of
gets back
times
to him.
Elon gets back to
Right.
him.
The same thing with Galileo at Hyperchange. Having him on the investor call, really smart, because Galileo, he asks all the right questions. He's
Right.
asking about future projects. He's not asking about the numbers that were already in the letter.
And here's the thing: if the media was picking on other leaders like they were picking on Elon, it would be one thing, but they're not. I mean, is everything that Jeff Bezos does being picked apart? Is everything that Bill Gates does being
Right.
picked apart? No, they're given a pass on lots and lots of things.
Right. And it's because they're not disrupting really fat cows. They're not
Right.
disrupting the oil industry. Jeff Bezos, let's face it, he's not disrupting anything that he didn't just disrupt overnight with Amazon. I mean, Amazon didn't really disrupt anything other than brick and mortar businesses, and they weren't able to kind of, they weren't being held by just a select few of very rich individuals. They're just
Right.
being held by average Joes. And so when the tables turned, they were not prepared to fight back.
That's right.
And their vested interests were quickly just like, well, whatever, we don't care about you guys. Whereas the oil industry is just a bunch of really rich guys owning all this
That's a
land
really
and
good
oil,
point.
and it's like
They
they can fight as much as they want because they're so rich.
Well, and they can't diversify. They
Right.
can't technologically change the fact that they drill something out of the ground.
Right.
So that they can't like, oh, we'll just do a new internet, a new
Yeah.
website.
Right.
All right, we're going to have to wrap this up soon. So let's
Yep.
get to the bottom of our questions if we can. Will the Model Y be less than the Model 3?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think because it's a CUV, it's going to be probably the same or more.
I think the Model 3 might eventually lower in price.
Right. We've seen that with Model S. It has come down slightly, so that could happen. Riley has got some drawings, so that's cool. We'll check those
We'll
out.
have to check those out.
Dirk says, but his excuse was great and showed that he is an upstanding man. Exactly.
Right.
Elon is. Let's see. Marcel, Elon maybe is just a human and makes mistakes. Of course, he definitely. Are you planning any more road trip videos? Yes. Don't know exactly when and where they will be, but we love doing them, so we're going to be doing some. Let's see. Bezos isn't tweeting. Exactly right.
Okay.
I mean, if Bezos was tweeting every day, then probably he would make some blunders and piss people off more.
Maybe. Yeah.
And Bezos is just trying to sell deodorant, as he calls his company PL. His tweeting just, let me trust Tim Bezos and Gates. I don't trust 100%. Yes.
Right. Yeah. You don't get the full. You don't get the full
well,
experience.
And let's be honest, these guys, I mean, as great as they are in terms of changing things up, their bottom line was always the bottom line. They always cared about making money first. Like, Gates with his operating system, he wasn't trying to make the world a better place first. He was trying to make money first.
And Elon his end goal here is to get us to Mars, which is, I would argue, the most amazing thing humankind has ever even thought of achieving.
Right. And he's kind of hinting at the fact that at some point Tesla to him will have done its job. It'll have moved this whole world to EVs, and he'll move on.
Right.
He's not like, I'm going to live on my big pile of money.
It's true. Right. It's going to go to Mars and live on Mars.
How big a shift is that, though?
Right.
I mean, most people that you study about in history, it's all been about one thing, the
and
money.
It's always been money. Yeah, it's so true. So, I mean, this is
it's like a first.
All right. We're going to have to wrap this up. Because I need to go to the bathroom and we need to do Tesla Time News. But thank you so much for joining us today. Because you guys are great. You guys help support us so much. And
just look at the discussion we've had. This wasn't been a bunch of questions about like, what shirt did you wear today? It's really deep stuff.
That's true. I mean, yeah. And we're just so fortunate that you guys are here. Other YouTubers in the world are just like, oh man, did you see that? Whoa, that was crazy. And like, it's just so nice that we can sit down and have like a really detailed discussion with you guys and not just be like, wow, that was clickbait.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just, we love having you guys in our community. Thank you so much. You want to plug the Tesla newsroom? Tesla Time?
Oh yeah. So we're doing this new thing. You might've heard about it, called the Tesla Time Newsroom. And it's a Slack channel. If you know about Slack, it's an app that you can use to communicate with one another. And we've invited about 50 people so far. I think we have over 30 on there now from around the world. And these are people that normally send us things during the week, right, through Facebook and email. But it gets tough, right? If there's a big story, think about like,
I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
All right, I'll explain it and say goodbye.
Yeah, bye.
If you think about a big story that comes out, we oftentimes get that same story from multiple people. And it can be hard for us to be like, thank you for sending the story, but we already heard it or whatever. This way, in the newsroom, once the story gets posted, everyone else in the newsroom knows that it's been posted. And so they can either reply to that and give more information, or they can go find another story. And we can assign stories back to you guys. So we can say like, hey, there's this story, but we need to do a little research and we don't live in Germany or in Australia. Could you help us because you live there? And it's been working out really great. So if any of you are interested in that, send us a Facebook message saying that you'd like to be part of the newsroom, or email us at zach@nowyouknowchannel.com. And we'll send you an invite so that you can be part of that, because it's really fun community where we get to talk about the news every week. So I'm going to sign off. And see you guys probably in about a month or so when we do another live stream, and we're going to go head off and do the news. So thank you guys.